Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Election Day. My goodness, 4 years of absolute screaming and crying and dragging people over the finish line of Trump, right? Unbelievable. And by finish line, I mean finishing 4 years of Trump. Like, he wasn't impeached, he wasn't removed from office, he wasn't assassinated. All of these things were, within the first couple of weeks, I'd had conversations with people who maybe aren't my friends anymore. I don't know. All sorts of people talking about any of those scenarios. Oh, he's going to get killed. He's going to get removed from office. He's going to be impeached. He was impeached, I guess, but not by the Senate. So I can't remember if that really counts. They voted to impeach him, but then the Senate was like, yeah, no. So I don't know. But you know, that's an interesting thing. And today's going to be one wild ride, I think. Buckle up, everyone. It's going to be interesting. I'm going to be watching. Absolutely going to be watching. Biden. I don't think Biden's going to win. I think Trump's going to win. I think if he doesn't. One of the tweets I made yesterday was that, and I realized that I'm starting on American politics. I was going to end on American politics, but it's election day. It's election day. Okay. But one of the things that I talked about or tweeted about the other day was that, do you know any Trump supporters who have abandoned him? Since 2016, do you know anybody who's been like, yeah, not that guy. That guy, he said X and he didn't do that. I don't think that there's anybody who was enthusiastic about Trump in 2016 who didn't watch the last 4 years and enjoy the ride at least a little bit, right? And they're enthusiastic to vote for him again, right? And Biden, you know, you've got Lady Gaga on the day before the campaign finishes doing a little rally for him, right? You know, I don't know. I don't know if that's going to translate to a massive win. I think they've got tricks up their sleeve, and we're going to see what that looks like today a bit more. But remember when Hillary lost and Podesta came out and said, you'll hear more from us tomorrow, and Hillary came out and conceded the next day? I don't know that we're going to see Biden concede today. I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out, though. It's a short wait. Anyway, let's get into the Canadian news. Justin Trudeau is telling another lie, says Dean Sikor. I don't know why I decided to say the last names here. That was terrible. Says Dean. Trudeau's massive tree planting promise from the 2019 election has yet to be allocated a single dime. COVID. Sorry, we can't do the things that we promised to do because of COVID. If you look down south, however, the leader there has promised to do a whole bunch more and has largely delivered on the things that he said. Very interesting. Here's an opinion piece, and a lot has been made, and maybe I'm just numb. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's what's happened. I'm just numb. I understand what Trudeau is and what he isn't, and what he isn't is a champion of Western values and free speech, right? He's not that. So when he came out saying, well, you know, free speech has limits, I heard that during the 2019 debate, during one of the high school debates. That was the only one they asked us about free speech in Guelph. And during the high school debate, the kids asked, what's your view on free speech? And I said unequivocally, people, like, that's the cornerstone of our society of Western culture, was basically my answer, and that we would defend it as the People's Party. And Lloyd, who's remember the sacred text of government? These sacred redacted texts, how dare you throw them on the ground? Lloyd said, well, you know, there's limits to those free speech. And I couldn't believe it. You can actually watch it if you go to markparalavis.com. It's the College Heights debate. And I couldn't believe his answer. And now I'm just numb to it. So anyway, Justin Trudeau just doesn't get liberalism. I think that you just don't get Justin Trudeau. And Justin Trudeau will make you pay for it. In the Gulag, comrade, back to this. Asked about the gruesome decapitations in Nice and Paris committed by Islamists who are angry about the republication of the Charlie Hebdo cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, Trudeau stated that freedom of expression is not without limits. We owe it to ourselves to act with respect for others and to seek out not to arbitrarily or unnecessarily injure those with whom we are sharing society and a planet. No mention of the Islamic priest who unequivocally denounced the teacher who got beheaded as subhuman, right? In Canada. No, that's not hate speech. That's fine. But anyway, carrying on. Trudeau's view appears innocuous at first glance. After all, but the most unreasonable absolutist could disagree that all rights, including the right to free speech, are subject to limits. But dig a little deeper and you will find Trudeau's statement troubling for two reasons. First, because it essentially blames the victims for the fundamentalist violence. And second, because it profoundly misunderstands the principle underlying free speech. Reading between the lines, Trudeau seems to suggest that he disapproves of the terrorists' violent methods, but not of their demand that others refrain from criticizing or ridiculing their religion. That is effectively a call for enacting blasphemy laws. That is bad enough. Worse still is the natural corollary which would place the onus on avoiding hurt and injury, not with the terrorists brandishing the guns and knives, but with the Charlie Hebdo cartoonists who mocked Islamic pieties and those who amplified the cartoons. It's hard to think of a more vivid example of victim blaming. Trudeau should be reminded that his view on the issue puts him in unsavory company. In the early 2000s, for example, some of the most regressive states in the world pushed the United Nations to adopt the concept of defamation of religions. The core demand of the governments from the Organization of Islamic Conference was not materially different than what Trudeau argued. The negative portrayals of religion should be considered outside the limits of acceptable speech. The second problem with Trudeau's ill-considered comment was that he seems to have entirely misunderstood the liberal democratic tradition of free speech. He revealed this when he resorted to a cliche favored by censors everywhere. To punctuate his point about the limits of speech, Trudeau stated that we do not have the right, for example, to shout fire in a movie theater crowded with people. He goes through an explanation of the Supreme Court battle about that statement, and it was actually used to stop peaceful protests of the First World War. So I'm just paraphrasing that part. But anyway, contrary to what Trudeau seems to believe, our free speech laws are drafted not to prevent hurt feelings or impose respect. They exist to protect thought, dissent, and unpopular views, and yes, that includes blasphemy. If Trudeau's comments are interpreted generously, he likely meant that decent people should not use their free speech to needlessly hurt the feelings of others. That may be a good moral rule, but it should not be conflated with a legal principle, just as mocking a religion should not be confused with attacking the people who adhere to it. For his ill-advised remarks, Trudeau has come under blistering attacks online. He deserves it, although some of the comments directed at him are disrespectful and may hurt his feelings. A world in which citizens are free to make such comments about leaders is better than the one Trudeau envisages, in which hurt feelings are used as justification for limiting speech. Oh, we're getting there, inching closer by the day. Here's the author's right. Trudeau has endured a lot of blistering comments, etc. I think it's distraction. I really think it's a distraction. I think it's like, fight about this, not about the things that we need to, like the things that will bring down the government, like the weed documents, like all of that other stuff. And everybody jumping on it, it just makes me suspicious. Again, I'm a little desensitized. They showed us who they were in the 2019 election. You should have paid attention. When people show you who they are, pay attention, right? If people stop calling you, it's not because they lost your number, right? There's a lot of ways to get in touch with you, right? Like, I'm just saying, right? Pay attention. When people show you who they are, pay attention. Here is, again, a distractionary, but they're still attacking Trudeau on the floor of the House of Commons for this. Here we go.
Is the Prime Minister incapable of mounting a loud and clear defense of freedom of expression? As I said,
And it goes through, the questions and the answers, etc. 2 minutes of denouncing the stance on free speech that Trudeau took during this tenure, this event, right? This terrorist attack. And there was another one yesterday in Vienna, right? This is just unbelievable what's going on in our world, and that people are tolerating it, and then claiming the moral high ground by not calling out what's wrong with it, right? What's happening and the reasons behind it, because there are reasons behind it, measurable. We can talk about them without race involved at all. We can talk about what's happening, but apparently that's racist, and they've got the moral high ground. So people listen to that for some weird reason. National Post is reporting Ethics Committee shut down new effort to examine Trudeau wife's speaking contract. Okay, I talked a lot about how if the Bloc won't play ball, then the NDP will, and if the NDP won't play ball, then the Bloc will, right? It's just a balancing game for the Trudeau Liberals. They don't want these WE documents. They will trigger an election to stop them from coming out. They will run an election on them on the moral high ground, and well, the NDP are doing exactly what the Bloc are doing. They're more powerful with Trudeau in, and they're gonna continue this process, this game, until they can't anymore. And it seems like the public are just fine with that. The House of Commons Ethics Committee has voted against a motion to study Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his wife Sophie Gregory Trudeau's speaking contracts since he was elected to Parliament. It was the committee's second attempt at such a probe. This time, NDP MP Charlie Angus abstained, and the new motion also failed by one vote. Aw, shucks. Last time a Bloc member left the meeting and another Bloc member came in and voted, claiming a translation misunderstanding. Oh, we were supposed to vote we? Oh, I thought it was no. No. And Charlie Angus, right? Here, Charlie Angus, he should have abstained. But last week, This is from November 2nd. It says, last week the Bloc blew away 17 hours of hard work at ethics by voting down access to the WE documents. Today we were within minutes of a vote to finally get the WE study started. It was set to pass, but the Bloc decided to play more games. No, he was the one who, according to this anyway, Charlie Angus was the one who abstained. So I wonder what the story is there. But yeah, the other week it was Charlie Angus who was trying to take the Bloc to task, and now he's the one who abstained, and now he's trying to blame the Bloc. So the Trudeau Liberals don't want these documents out, and they are willing to use a scorched earth tactic to make sure they don't. And scorched earth is election. Is that a risk for them? I don't know. I don't think that it is. Really, I don't know that the risk is as big as they think. I think that they think they'll grow at the expense of the NDP, and I think they're probably right. And because if you believe in this, and a lot of people believe in COVID, and they believe that the response from the government has been good, despite what I'm about to tell you, and despite all of the evidence to the contrary, they think that the government's response has been positive. And you can't argue with these people. Like, you really can't. It's a post-fact world. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what your eyes say. To use Trump as a really good example, right? Like, if you compare back side by side a Biden versus a Trump rally, I've had people talk to me and say, Trump's going to lose, Biden's going to win. And I know they watch the mainstream media. I know they watch the news more. And I keep telling them, like, they're not telling you the truth. They're not telling you what's actually happening. But if you look at pictures of a Trump rally and a Biden rally, side by side, even the Lady Gaga rally, there's no comparison. A Lady Gaga rally had and that's not even a good comparison, because more than 90% of Biden's rallies aren't that big. The Trump, any random Trump rally dwarfs it, and that's incredible for a politician. What happened? What happened to I asked another person who was talking to me the other day, who's the biggest celebrity in the movies right now? What's the name of the sexiest man alive right now? And they just looked at me like, I don't know that. And I knew they didn't know that, right? There was a time if somebody said, like, who's the big person on the cover of whatever magazine, the big one, you would know. It would be like Brad Pitt or George Clooney or whatever, right? One of those guys. Who are those guys now, right? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. There's a reason for that. Maybe I'm just completely out of touch. Anyway, here's Health Canada. And this is, okay. This is terrifying, right? Like the other day, Australia, they were doing their digital citizenship stuff. Welcome to Canada. Health Canada, PHAC. The Government of Canada announced today that as of November 21st, new mandatory requirements will be put in place for travelers entering Canada to submit COVID-related information digitally. Learn more. As of November 21st, it will be mandatory for all air travelers to Canada to submit their COVID-19 info digitally using ArriveCan, the ArriveCan app, before they board their flight. Learn more. As of November 21st, it will be mandatory for travelers to Canada to use ArriveCan or call toll-free within 48 hours of entering Canada to provide COVID-19 information. So if you cross it like the land border, you have to let them know, or you can just use their app. This is very, very concerning. Not too many likes, right? And yeah, very, very, very concerning. Here's a reason why it's concerning. Charges laid following Toronto Halloween party with 60 to 70 people. Only one charge, I think, out of all of the things, so say the Toronto police. But again, this is meant to cool the socializing and all of that other stuff that people would regularly do. This is not the way forward. This is not the way forward. This is from the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is Fraser Nielsen, and he is a reporter. He's a blue checkmark editor of The Spectator and The Telegraph columnist. He says, hugely important. This is the key graph from Saturday night's United Kingdom lockdown press conference, shown to a primetime TV audience of 15 million people. It suggests up to 4,000 daily COVID deaths. But now, government is backtracking, refusing to explain the graphs or to publish the studies that they came from. And here's he's got a column. I'm not going to get into the column, but I wanted to show you this. This is the reason I tagged this. And Alison Pearson is another UK columnist. And she says, this is the graph I keep looking at. Highest daily deaths in Brazil was 1,554. And that's a poor country with no real health system and 3 times the UK's population. How the heck does the UK get to 4,000 daily deaths? It's ludicrous. It's ludicrous. It's crazy. Here's from Australia. It says, Dear editor, I'm from Australia. I'm watching the fast-track development of coronavirus vaccines with mounting concern. Under the Australian Biosecurity Act of 2015, refusers of coronavirus vaccination in Australia could be at risk of 5 years imprisonment and or $66,000 fine. This emergency power has been active since March 2020 and has been extended to December 2020 with the potential for unlimited extensions. These powers are very, very concerning. Okay, so now here's what's happening in Ottawa. And there's some dark clouds to that silver lining, okay? CTV News is reporting. Ottawa's top doctor says it's time to learn to live with COVID-19. Okay? And this article made me create this meme, okay? And the 28-day lockdown, Vince McMahon's interested. Balance harms, Vince McMahon is excited. Live with the virus, there's Vince McMahon more than excited. And important to have economic activity return, and there's nuclear Vince McMahon. So I'll read through this. I just thought it was kind of a funny aside. Anyway, here we go. Ottawa's medical officer of health is recommending a new approach for the capital to deal with the COVID-19 pandemic, learning to coexist with the virus. Quick aside, I'm pretty sure that's what we've been doing. Okay, back to this. I've suggested to the province that we find a more balanced approach for the way forward, Dr. Vera Etches said Monday. The approach I'm recommending is that we learn to coexist with the COVID-19 with care. Dr. Etches made those comments at the Board of Health meeting Monday evening. Dr. Etches says we are near the end of the 28-day modified restrictions in Ottawa. It's time to balance harms going forward. We definitely see harms from the transmission of COVID, and we're worried about hospitalizations and deaths and people not being well, Dr. Etches said. People not being well. We're also seeing really significant harms from the closures and the impacts of people's businesses and employment and people's mental health. We need to find a new way to live with the virus, she said. We can do this through our own actions. We can decrease COVID in the community, and it's important to have more economic activity return. Dr. Etches says harm reduction and ensuring there are added safety measures in a bar or restaurant is, in her view, more safe than people gathering at private settings where there may be no safety measures in place. As a result, Dr. Etches explained it would be less harmful to have people in controlled environments going forward. Welcome to the cafeteria. Sorry, you're not allowed to have friends over because you might spread the COVID that neither of you have. But come to the cafeteria where we can keep an eye on what you're talking about. Yikes, right? And I thought at first that this was like a good thing, and I think ultimately it's going to be twisted, right? Like the last second, you think things are turning around, right? You think things are returning to rational sense. Oh, they're talking about the lack of deaths or the lack of hospitalizations, and then all of a sudden they're like, yes, actually, here's the Ottawa task force urges Ottawa residents with symptoms to get tested. Do you have a cold or flu? Are you kind of achy? Have you been reading the news a lot and believe that you also might be sick with the COVID for no reason? Come and get tested. We need to inflate our numbers. Manitoba's mulling a curfew to clamp down on parties amid rise in COVID-19 cases. Sorry, citizen. We need to infringe on your rights for your safety. It's for your own good. Don't you dare question it either. And don't you do any of those usual holiday things that you do with your family. That's dangerous. But curfews, that's not dangerous. That's for your safety. We're doing it to protect you. Here's Almer. Do you think that you have freedom of expression? The people of Almer do not. Almer police tweet out, Town of Almer declared state of emergency. This action has been taken in direct response to a second anti-masking freedom march planned for November 7th. The potential for civil unrest and service disruption has prompted this response. Here's what prompted that response. Almer's next Lawful Public Freedom March is Saturday, September 7th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. at the East Elgin Community Complex parking lot. Speeches at 1:45 and march at 2:10 down the right-hand side of Main Street, Highway 3. This is a family-friendly parade-like event, and it is of the utmost importance that we remain peaceful, friendly, and positive. Times are tough, and as we work to get through this country open, people are struggling because of government COVID policies. If you would like to donate to the food bank, we will have a place up by the stage wagons where you can drop off canned goods. I'm really looking forward to meeting you and for a nice talk with everyone as we advocate for our freedom. Make signs and bring them along. Bring your family and children and friends. We're focused on freedom, medical freedom, and getting back to normal. Please stay on topic as we want to build credibility to our freedom movement. And hey, we're Canadians. See you soon, and thanks for your help. Kimberly. Well, Kimberly, if you've read this, I think that the police missed that memo. Okay, here's the Almer, here's the declaration. At 3 p.m. Monday, November 2nd, 2020, the town of Almer declared a state of emergency as a result of the potential for civil unrest and severe disruption relating to protests and demonstrations regarding COVID-19 directions, recommendations, and others set out by the province of Ontario and Southwest Public Health. As a point of notation, sorry, it's very small, so I'm not going to read this right now, but you can read it if you want to. It's signed by the mayor. As far as I understand, this is real. The Almer police aren't blue checkmarked, but I have no reason to believe that it's not real. Very, very concerning. Very concerning indeed, right? Like how are you supposed to engage in your civil liberties if state of emergencies are called over such a mild mannered gathering? Like really, like there's no, we're gonna burn down anything. There's no Portland-like organization here, and not that I've seen anyway. I mean, if you've seen it, please do send it to me. But it seems like the people who are overreacting here are the mayor and the Almer police, and I hope that somebody does something about that, because wow, and does something about that. I mean, talks about it, challenges it in court, because how can they declare a state of emergency for something like that? That is just incredible. And how are we continuing to abide by unilateral medical officials who just give out, who rule by decree, basically, and the politicians say, oh, well, we're listening to the best experts. I'd like a second and third opinion, please, and I'd like to see who's paying them and how much and when. Yeah, back to this. In light of all of that, here's a guy who's keeping track of all of the municipalities that want ranked ballots. So the municipalities are saying, yeah, we want more control over our democracy, but please do let us know when we're allowed to protest and when we're allowed to gather and who we're allowed to see. And yeah, we'll download an app to let you monitor who we interact with regularly, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's such a slippery slope. We are honestly sleepwalking into this. People just don't care. They just don't care, and it's so disappointing, right? Like, it's so scary that people are so afraid they're willing to hand over civil liberties for no reason. And even before this, Derek Sloan's Derek Sloan's a member of the CPC party. He ran for leadership, seemingly to split the vote away from McKay so that O'Toole would win. That's what it looks like. But back to this, he says, last week I shared real concerns from Canadians about C6 and had those concerns dismissed. Watch this video to see their reply. Derek Sloan conveys our concerns about Bill C6 to Parliament. So Bill C6 would criminalize discussing gender dysphoria with people who want to transition. Gender dysphoria is a real thing. And yeah, it's interesting to have the government engage in what they're engaging in here. It's the same as it's the same as having the mother who's got custody of the child who wants to transition and the father doesn't agree. They've got joint custody, but the father's in jail for talking about the child's gender and the challenges. And the court has ruled that he's not allowed to do that. And that's why he's in jail, because he's doing that, because we're losing the ability to meaningfully discuss mental health issues with potentially ill people in favor of transitioning them and creating more health issues for that person. It seems wild. It seems just crazy. I've noted before the anti-babies, single baby, all sorts of stuff, propaganda. Other people are seeing it too. Garnet Genius is a conservative MP. And he says, some people posted a racist ad in Vancouver telling everyone to have only one or no children. I responded with an ad featuring my children, saying essentially that children are wonderful. Someone complained about the second ad, but not the first. Right? And here's a quote. It says, how can there be too many children? That's like saying there are too many flowers. That's a Mother Teresa quote. Right? How short a time the standard wisdom has changed. Right? Very, very interesting. Surveys don't do anything. I have zero faith in surveys. Apparently there's 1 million signatures to remove Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Call your MP's office. Have a meeting with your MP. Tell them in pain detail how they're failing you. A petition just doesn't. I would love for a petition to work, right? But a petition doesn't work. A petition doesn't do anything and it's disingenuous, I find, when political parties do that, because yes, it is a great way to collect emails. It's a really good way to collect emails. You know what's an even better way to collect emails? Speak truth. Speak truth and have a good email collection aid thing on your website. But a lot of places, media companies, I've seen Rebel do it. Sign this survey if you agree, or sign this petition if you agree with us. I've seen the conservatives do it. Sign this petition if you agree with us. What's your petition going to do? What's your petition going to do? You're going to send me emails so you make money off me. I give you money to then represent my petition in the House of Commons. And then what do you do? What do you do? Nothing. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Right? The petition means nothing. Garbage. More churches are being burned. We saw this across Europe, across France, before Notre Dame was burned. And, well, I mean, it's happening in Ontario. It's happening in Ontario. And the Vancouver method has been established for a long time. They could have fought it, but they didn't. BC could have set up casino crime unit based on regulators' concerns in 2013, inquiry hears. Canada's been a target for a long time, and we've been fleeced for a long, long time, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares in the leadership area, like the senators in BC, at the provincial level, the MPs in BC, provincial level, MPPs, and the MPs also don't want anything to do with the concerns about this. They don't want anything to do with the wildly outrageous real estate market created by this. They don't want anything to do with talking about fixing this. Why? Because, well, I mean, there's a lot of money at stake, right? And not just like, I'm not saying necessarily direct bribes, but like you get buildings built, you get wheels greased, right? Things move a little easier if you can get things done, right? It's not necessarily about direct compensation. It's about, oh, well, I've worked with this person for a long time and things are easier. Infiltration, not invasion. And so we're in a situation where we've got lots of people who either that's always the way it's been done since they've been around, so they don't question it, or they are being pressured by outside forces and jobs, all sorts of other stuff, and the coronavirus as well, because you have to play that game if you're in, I mean, you have to play that game, right? If you go for a job and they say, you're going to wear a mask, right? And you say, I don't think so. How many, like they say, okay, get a doctor's note, right? And if you're looking to get a new job and they want to give you a mask, you have to play that game. So we're in a situation where checkmate, right? And until the public health people come back and repeal this stuff, the freedom is gone. You do not have a right to refuse a medical device unless you go get a doctor's note, which is not legal, but happening everywhere, right? Everywhere. And we don't have any leadership incentivized to do anything about it. In fact, they're incentivized to make sure that they know who you're talking to, right? It'd be much better if we could just, have you people in controlled environments going forward. Right, sure. Because I can't believe they want what's best for us. We're 8 months into 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and everybody's behaving as if wearing a mask is the cure-all, despite the fact that the cases are skyrocketing. Nobody wants to talk about this. It's so frustrating. It's so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. It's so dumb. Like if there was a classroom being taught by a bad teacher, you might go like get somebody outside of your environment to like help you with this. But in this situation, if there was somebody else to help us, which there isn't somebody else to help us. There's an international body that's going to come in and say, Justin Trudeau, you've been bad. Like the Canadian people need to say no. That's what needs to happen. And they need to say no through the systems that we've created, but our systems have been infiltrated, in my opinion. And you can see that from court decisions at the provincial level saying that innocuous Doug Ford repeals of subsidies are against like basic charter rights. And so Ford had to use notwithstanding clauses, or even just threatening to use notwithstanding clauses. You can see that in legal decisions upholding just ridiculous things like having custody, not being able to discuss your child's biological sex, and having your ability to choose about your child who is not an adult removed from you because reasons, right? Like that's what I'm talking about when I say our systems have been infiltrated. Our systems and rule of law has been watered down. The Liberals have made a lot of changes to the law books. They've created global compacts to enable people to just come to Canada and get benefits right away. But our veterans, our elderly, our healthcare systems are bursting at the seams and not being cared for adequately. And yet, we've got all this money to send to the WHO and outside of Canada, and to welcome newcomers and to resettle refugees. With this level of unemployment, with this economy, but there's nobody going to rescue us. There's nobody going to come in and say, you've been bad, Justin, right? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's coming. The only person and people who are going to do that is us. The only people who can do that is us. And not me, us. Canadian public. And right now, the Canadian public are just fine with all of what's going on. They don't care. They're either disincentivized, they're disincentivized to find out because of the media and the push for conformity. And you can see the people who are willing to do it because they've got masks on. Look at what we're up against. Sorry, that's kind of a bummer on election day. I was gonna finish with U.S. politics, but I started with it. So, Canadians await U.S. election in fear as poll reveals anxieties about aftermath. It's not very often, like when Obama was slated to win, that people were boarding up Washington D.C. and markets were this jittery and it's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch of the imagination. But if you were to look at the exit polls, if you were to look at the early voting, if you were to look at the trends, and as I said at the top, do you know many people who said, I voted in 2016 for Trump, but that guy didn't deliver? I just don't see it. I don't see it. So unless Biden's got some seriously hidden support, and it just doesn't seem like the people who like Biden will shout you down if you say, yeah, but Trump's not too bad. They will shout you down so people stop saying it. And now I think the fact that there's unbolted down benches and New York and major cities, DC, are boarding up in anticipation of a Trump announcement of a win tonight, that says a lot, right? That didn't happen in 2008. That didn't, for Obama, the first black president, that didn't happen in 2008. People weren't like, uh-oh, Obama might win and the Republicans are going to go really crazy. That wasn't going to happen. 2012, Obama might win and the Republicans are going to go really crazy. But Donald Trump won, and the Democrats went really, really crazy. Have you enjoyed the last couple of years, the last 4 years, because of the riots and the unending, what's the word? Uncertainty. The word I'm looking for starts with a D, but I don't care that much. Uncertainty, right? Like the unrest, I guess that'll work. I haven't enjoyed it, and I think that if Hillary was in, it would have been worse. But not with domestic. It would have been something else, ISIS or North Korea or Russia, something else. She was set to impose no-fly limits on Russia. So instead of the international war, we got civil unrest and a near civil war in the United States for 4 years, and that wasn't on Trump. That was on the Democrats having a temper tantrum because they lost in 2016. And if people don't like that, well, I don't know what to tell you. I don't care. I don't care. That's the truth. So anyway, that's enough out of me. I hope tomorrow we see Trump as victorious, clearly, because I think I don't know that that's important to move forward, but the more muddy the waters, and they're going to try and muddy the waters, the less legitimacy the win will have, etc. It doesn't matter how many electoral seats he's got or electoral college votes he's got, if they try and delegitimize it. And I think I've heard that's going to be the play. I think that Trump put out a statement saying that that's going to be the play. So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? But the next 24 hours are going to be interesting and very telling. I think we'll see what happens next. I can't wait to watch. It's going to be fun. Thanks for watching me, and check out CanadaPoly.com, check out CanadaReport.co, check out SpeakingMoistly.co. I'm going to be recording today with Greg. We're going to be talking about, we're going to be talking about a lot. I sent him a link yesterday that I was really excited to talk about, but I can't remember what it is now. So, fallible memory. What are you going to do? Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.